Okay, we are live. Say, can I begin now?
I think it takes some time to come onto YouTube, but it's okay to begin now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the interview of the 2024 Indian IMO team. The team performed phenomenally, and we were ranked fourth overall, which is our best performance till date. The team selection is a rigorous process, which will be talked about in the coming minutes. Also, the live chat on YouTube will be monitored, so feel free to put your questions there, and we'll try to ask as many of them as possible. So before we begin, I'd like to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourselves. So Aditya, would you like to start?
Just a minute.
Yeah,
Sanjana, can you switch on the gallery view from your end in
sure.
Zoom?
Yeah.
So I'm Aditya and I'm from Pune and I have currently started class 12 and this was my third time in the and I like geometry.
Okay. Arjun, would you like to go next?
I'm Arjun Gupta. I reside in Delhi. I'm an open school student, or at least I was an open school student. Now I'm in college. This was my third IMO, and in these three times I won a bronze, gold, and silver respectively. And apart from that, I also play chess. I came third in Western Asian Chess Championship in 2019. So maths and chess are my two interests. But I also like to play badminton and rock climbing as well.
That's nice. Kanav, would you like to go next?
Sure. So my name is Kanav. I am right now will go into 11th grade. I live in Greater Noida, which is close to Delhi. This was my first IMO, and yeah, basically, other than math, I play basketball and enjoy watching cricket.
Rishal, would you like to go next?
Okay, I'm Rishil. I finished class 12. This was my first time as well. I like to teach a lot, so I've done a lot of OMC and other stuff like that. Um, yeah, I have also written a book, so consider buying that. And yeah, I also like playing chess. Maybe I'll also get good at rock climbing someday, but yeah.
And Siddharth?
Hello, I'm Siddharth. I'm from Pune. I'm currently in college, and this was my second time at the IMO. Other than math, my hobbies are music and origami.
Okay, the sixth member, Ananda, is not here right now. He'll be joining us shortly. So let's begin with the questions. We'll start with some questions about your journey in the Olympiads from IOQM to the IMO. So first, could you tell us more about the process of team selection from IOQM to the team selection tests, including arbitration? So Arjun, can you
Uh,
tell us about this?
Yeah. So the first stage is IUQM, which is like a regional competition. This competition anyone can game who is between 8th grade and 12th grade. And anyone from any school can game. Like for example, I'm in open school, so I can also give. And in this paper from each region, 300 students are shortlisted. And in this paper, you do not have to explain your answer. You just have to write down the answer because so many people give this paper, so there are not so many mentors in India who can check like lakhs of copies or something. And the next stage after this is RMO, which is Regional Mathematics Olympiad. And in this, from every region, from the 300 people that will be giving from every region, 30 people are then shortlisted from each region. And but in this paper RMO, you have to write down the answers, and your answers will get checked. And this is one good thing about India, that at RMO level itself, we have to write down our proofs. And this is possible because in India we have more teachers compared to other countries. For example, uh, in the US they can't simply organize the RMO, but we can do it in India. And the next stage is INMO, which is Indian National Mathematics Olympiad. In this, from all over India, so like we have 30 students shortlisted from each state, and then from when we combine all the state, we get around a set of 1,000 students, and all of these give the the INMO exam, and from these, around 70 people are selected who will come to the camp in Mumbai or Chennai. Uh, And after that, in the camp for the first week, we are trained, we are given some practice test. Then we have our TST1 and TST2. And after that, we again have 3-4 training days. And then we have a TST3 and TST4. And after that, we get our marks and the team is selected. But one very interesting thing about the team selection test and the IMO is the arbitration part. So, for example, when you get your marks, if you're not satisfied with your marks, you can argue with the grader that I deserve more marks. And this is a very interesting process because the grader will try to stick to the marks he or she has given because well they can't simply change the marks directly. And on the other hand, you are trying to increase your marks. So it's very interesting. It's some it sometimes feels like bargaining, like you are going to a shop and trying to adjust the cost of uh, an item or something, but it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think one small thing I wanted to add is that in INMO, for example, you're given like 4.5 hours for just 6 problems. So there's a lot of time that, and this also feels for most of us actually a little less in some sense because for example, in our selection test, we have 3 problems in 4.5 hours. So it's really about spending a lot of time on problems, and even then you may not be able to solve it and you might just get partial progress. So it's really about thinking about problems for a lot of time.
Okay, the next question is, how did you start preparing? What got you into it, and who guided you in your initial days? Also, if you have any resources you'd like to suggest, please do so.
So, okay, I'll just start here. Yeah, I started preparing informally and let's say around seventh, but more so around eighth. But the first real thing I did in Olympiads was basically I registered for this junior maths Olympiad thingy, which was like a local math competition. And that really introduced me to this bunch of problems, which were like really challenged me to think. Like I didn't know how to solve them at first, and I had to think in sort of new and creative ways. And often I had to end up seeing the solution, but that also amazed me in terms of just some new ideas. And that's what really got me going. I got a lot of different opportunities over the years. I think the big step for me was when I joined a lot of these student-run programs like Sophie and Otis. And what these programs allowed me to do is just realize that there are a lot of people preparing like me, and that allowed me to, solve problems together and share ideas, etc. But more so in the early days, it was a little more on my own. I think resources really depend on the person to person. Like, what works for me may not work for others. But for me, I think nice book to start off would have been Mathematical Circles. Even though that's not something I did, but now that I look back, I think that's a good book to start off with.
I started preparing at around sixth grade. So, like in sixth grade, I got introduced to a teacher in my city called Prakash sir, and he started teaching me and Siddharth together. So that's how got introduced to Math Olympiads and started preparing about it. And like, that's where I learned most of what I learned. So I got really into this mathematics because I found it very interesting and like there are new ideas and I could like not solve these problems easily. So like they became a challenge and I became more interested to do them because of this. Yeah, that's how I started preparing.
Arjun, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so I started preparing in grade 9, and it was a very tough, difficult time because I had left main school and I went to open school because I asked my school for like exemption because I want to prepare for Olympiads, but they said they could only give partially in 8 but not in 9. So that was a very difficult decision I had to take. And I would say my parents guided me in my initial days. Like I would like to give the credit of my success to my parents, and I would even say my mother worked harder than me for my success. And regarding the resources, Actually, there's a scarcity of resources in India, but still the number of resources is growing because of initiatives like OMC as well, because people are now aware where to look. So either you can search online for a handout or something. As Rushan mentioned, there's mathematical circles, and if someone finds mathematical circles to be very hard, then there is also Moscow math circles. And once you are above RMO level or something, then there is OTIS, which is run by Ivan Chen. And like once you are able to clear RMO, then you can just go online and do the problem. There is IMO shortlist. There is a very big list of problems which will never end. So then you can just train yourself.
Okay, the next question is for everyone. Give one line of advice for beginners in Olympiads.
So my advice would be like just enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the problems you're doing, and like keep challenging yourself.
Arjun, would you like to go next?
Along with mathematics, also do physical activity. It will help a lot in mathematics.
Interesting. Kanav, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. Just follow your passion and enjoy what you do. There are going to be ups and downs. It's not going to be an increasing path. Just don't give up and keep on moving forward.
Nice. Rushal?
Yeah, I feel like I would have said the exact same thing, but because I have to say something new, probably just don't worry too much about the actual competition. Just like enjoy that you're learning new concepts, and like with every new problem you solve, you should just feel happy about the fact that you've done something interesting, and don't bother too much with the results.
And Siddharth?
Okay. And when you problem solve, like solving problems, sometimes it's like you don't need to solve way too many problems, but like the thing that's more important is that you learn from each problem. You don't just solve a problem and move ahead. Like think like look back on the problems and like think what was the most important step, or like what was the actual structure of the problem.
Nice. So we come to the next question. The next question is, how did it feel like to make team? And were you under pressure during and after the TSTs? And if so, how did you deal with it? So Rushal, could you go first?
Yeah, it was like a huge feeling that like I made the team. It was not something I expected, to be very honest. I I think in 11th I was working very hard to try and make it, but I ended up being quite far away. But in 12th I just came saying that okay, I'm going to enjoy some of these problems and have some fun. Whether I make team or not is not really my end goal. And yeah, it went well. I did a lot better than I sort of expected, and yeah, it was a huge feeling. Um, there is a fair bit of luck involved, so I guess luck was on my side, but it all comes down to lots of years of preparation and hard work.
Kanav, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure. Even for me, I have been doing for a long time Olympiads, and same as last year, I didn't make it. And so this year, for me, making team was finally like a dream come true. It was a great feeling. And for the pressure and stress, like I just had to remove all the pressure, stress, and expectations because thinking about it would just ruin my performance. So each TST, I just went with a positive mindset and just enjoyed the problems and just treated TSTs as like just another exam. Because all the pressure and stress would just affect in a negative way.
That makes sense. So the next question is, how is your preparation for the IMO before and during the pre-departure camp or the PDC? And could you also explain what the PDC is to those who may not know?
So after we finish IMOTC and we like if we get selected for the team, there's a pre-departure camp that is held right before the IMO, so the 2 weeks in the lead up to the IMO. And there are a lot of people who have finished their Olympiad career in the sense that they've gone to college, but they're still involved and they help us by giving us mocks, giving us problem sets. So, for example, Atul, Rohan, Rijul, and Shantanu and a lot of other people. And yeah, I think for me, if For example, geometry was something that I thought it was a little bit of a weakness for me. So I got a lot of geometry presets and I got a lot of problems to do of that sort. And we also got a lot of different mocks and from the shortlist as well. So yeah, that was it till I think the first half of PDC, but the second half is more like just play games and chill because don't want to sort of put too much pressure on yourself right before the exam.
Aditya, would you like to add something?
Yeah. And like apart from what like Krishna has already said, for the IMO, like for the PDC, we also used to do a lot of some group solves and stuff like that as well. Used to discuss problems and do them together. And one more thing that helped me in my preparation was like I also used to teach students in Otis and like the problems they used to give me, they used to like I used to try them and like when I like began explaining some solution, it made me understand it better. Made me better in the stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is for anyone to answer. How was your experience at the IMO itself? This could include meeting new people, the food, the excursions, the ceremonies, and of course the contest itself and the problems. So,
My experience was quite great. I think the best part for me was attending talks from some of the famous mathematicians who had come. So I really liked one talk by Three Blue, One Brown, and another one by Simon Singh because it was just like really exciting to meet some of these people in real life and get a chance to learn from them. Of course, the IMO was also a big experience. And yeah, it was just crazy to be sitting in that hall and writing that exam. The food was okay. Um, at least there was vegetarian food, so I can't blame too much.
okay, the next question is, so congrats on your interview with the Honorable Prime Minister. And what is your opinion on increasing awareness in the country about Olympiads and math education? Arjun, would you like to share something?
Yeah. So firstly, I would like to thank the PM for inviting us to Man Ki Baat. Uh, it was a great honor to be there. And after that, he also invited, like we also got a invitation from Rashtrapati Bhavan to have like dinner on 15th of August. And that experience was also great because the president, vice president, and the PM came to meet us personally. And it was so good to see like all the great people of like all the great ministers of India. Like we saw foreign minister, the national security advisor, the home minister, oh no, not sorry, the home minister, the defense minister, and so on. So that was a great experience. And I would say awareness in India is constantly increasing, and one reason for that is also like because we are supported more. For example, in 2022 we were called to the parliament to like give speech on Dr. Rajendra Prasad because we represented India. Now in 2024 we are invited to Man Ki Baat, and not even that we are invited to the President House. So I think when people will get to know about these things, the awareness will increase, and this will definitely improve India's rank at the IMO because one main issue in India about Olympiad is that people do not know about them. By the time they get to know about Olympiad, they're already in 10th grade or something like that. So so if the awareness increases, I'm very sure that India will start performing much better.
Yeah, nothing really to add to that, but I think like there are two sort of things that are very important for um like India's success, like in these Olympiads. One is, of course, that more people get to know about it. And second, there's also more incentive for them to start preparing for it. Um, the second one is something which I think still needs a little bit more work, but at least the first one, it's really nice to see that there'll be a lot more people who are getting to know about this from a lot of different sources, but definitely from Man Ki Baat.
So, in general, what's your opinion about math awareness in the country? Like, do you think it should be more widely spread, or do you think it's sufficiently currently spread right now?
I think it is not sufficiently currently spread right now, but it is spreading, and because of Man Ki Baat, I think it will spread exponentially at least for 1 year or something.
Yeah, I think the funny joke is something like if you tell people like you don't know a language or something, then they'll call you illiterate. If you don't know maths, then they'll relate with you. So yeah, it's good to see that more and more people are coming out of that feeling, but yeah, there's a lot of work to be done.
Okay, so moving on, I'm sure that many young aspirants would love to hear advice from you guys. So here are a few questions many people I'm sure would love to hear the answers to. So first off, what would you tell your younger self who's just starting off Olympiads if you could tell them something?
So firstly, I would ask that person to confirm if he is giving the right Olympiad. It is not the SOF Olympiad or any other private Olympiad. So he should confirm it is the correct Olympiad, which leads to RMO, INMO, and actually it's the actual International Olympiad because in India, you talk to people about if you say this person did good at IMO, they'll be like SOF IMO, and like people know about SOF IMO and not about this IMO, which is an unfortunate thing. But I would also suggest the youngsters to like, so for example, when I was preparing for RMO, I would look at the problem and see the solution very quickly. I did not know that this is not how Olympiad works. So I would suggest them to be like aware of this mistake because in school how we are usually taught is that we need to just memorize a set of formulas or we just need to memorize how to solve a particular type of problems, but this is simply not how Olympiad works. Olympiad, you'll get a completely new problem where you will have to like you will have to find an ingenious solution on your own. Definitely your past experience will help, but the solution will be completely new. So when you're preparing, don't look at the solution immediately. Like you have to, the main part of preparing is spending time on the problem. Don't see the solution very quickly.
Yeah, I think one small thing I want to say is like very different from this answer, but I would not give any advice to my younger self just because like I think it's a long journey and you learn things over that journey. You don't necessarily need to know everything when you start off, but you should be willing to change how you do things, learn new ideas, and go where things take you.
Makes sense. So the next question is, how important is the role of intuition in problem solving? What comments can you give on this, and how can one work towards developing intuition? Siddharth, would you like to share something?
Yeah. So I think like intuition is probably, in my opinion at least, like the most valuable thing in problem solving. Like it's sort of like you have a feel for different structures. For example, like in geometry, if there are a lot of concyclic things, you might want to angle chase. If there are a lot of lines, you might want to do some projective things. This and to build intuition, like once you have something like that's new for you, just like try to play around with it a lot. And once you're done with the problem or you've read a solution, like just look back on it and like think like what was the structure of the problem, and like how, also like how you can like just see the solution at a glance, like. And uh, yeah, so it's uh, intuition is like pretty vague. It's, yeah, just play around with structures.
That makes sense. Would someone else like to add to that, Kanav?
Sure. Again, as that said, intuition is, I'd say, most important thing in Math Olympiad. Like a lot of problems have like a one key claim or like a big leap of faith. Or like say a geometry problem, 4 points turn out to be concyclic. They don't just turn out to be concyclic, or you don't just realize that by a good diagram. You realize that because you have an intuition that this should be true, rather than this has to be true. So like a lot of problems, as I said, there's a big leap of faith. Rather than just like randomly guessing with the leap of faith, if you feel that thing is true, that it makes life for much, much more easier. And so this feeling about things is true is like basically intuition. And like you cannot train for it at all. It's just something you develop. And that develop comes with practice, years of practice. So yeah, that's what I'll say. It's the most important thing. And you won't just randomly see a problem and say this is the solution. You need the practice to build the intuition, and the intuition will be required for more practice. So yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
would
sort
like
of
to
like a
add one thing. Yeah, you go on first.
yeah, like it's sort of like a cycle of like getting intuition and like, and also one thing is like sometimes you read a solution and then like you understand the solution, but you don't really like grasp the solution. Like you don't know where this idea is coming from. So like yeah, again like spend more time on like things on solutions that you've read, and like you can also like ask others for help, like uh, if it was someone else's solution, like why did you think of that? And so
Yeah, so I would like to add that I think intuition is the reason why humans are better at solving Olympiad problems than robots. And in fact, this year XTX Masters announced that if anyone can create a AI which can solve problem as good as an IMO gold medalist, then they will give them $10 million. Yeah.
That's interesting. So the next question is something I'm sure a lot of people would like to know the answer to. So if I'm unable to solve a problem, should I take a look at the solution? Should I spend more time on it? What's the general method to approach this? And I think everyone can give an answer for this. So Arjun, could you go first?
Yeah, sure. Uh, so one general rule of thumb is that after suppose you're trying a problem and for 1 hour you have no progress, then you can take a hint. I'm usually against seeing the whole solution. It's better to take a hint and then again try for 20 minutes. For example, suppose suppose you take a hint that you have to do this construction in the problem and still a major part of the problem is left. And instead of trying the problem, if you just simply look at the solution, then what are you learning? Nothing, right? So it's better. Uh, that you first take a hint and then try it again as a new problem because the problem is still not trivial. And coming back to how much time one should spend, uh, there is no perfect time here. I said the 1 hour rule already, but the correct thing is that you should stop trying the problem when you have stopped learning more things. But you usually don't know what when you have stopped learning more things. So for that we have that rule of thumb. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think just to add, there are sort of like three sorts of problems which you might face. One are problems that are at most the difficulty that you're very comfortable with. One are problems, the second is like problems that you're not like comfortable with, but with a lot of effort, possibly some hinting, you can solve. And third are problems which are just too hard for you, and those problems also exist. So if you're doing problems of type 3, it might be useful not to even take a look at a hint or anything up from the solution, just because you should probably wait it out and come back to that problem a few months down the line when you feel a little more ready for it. On the other hand, doing too many problems which you feel you're already comfortable with is also not a great idea, because like you don't learn enough. So the best thing to do is to sort of over time get a hunch of what sort of problems are this like a little bit above your comfort zone for you. And on such problems, try and get a hint after, let's say, 1 hour of no progress, etc. And if things do get too desperate, then maybe take a look at solutions. But um, yeah, it's also important that you don't spend forever on a single problem, just because um, it's like for practice, it's not necessarily the best to, treat each problem like it's the end of the world. Sometimes it is the optimal thing in terms of your practice strategy to just see the solution and see what you can learn from it. But yeah, as far as possible, that should be avoided.
I see. Aditya, would you like to add something to this?
I don't think there's much to add. Like, don't see the solution immediately. Like, try to like avoid looking at the solution as much as possible, I guess. And, like, see hints if you're like not getting progress further.
Okay, the next question is, should I have a set strategy
Okay, if
for,
I may
yeah,
just add something.
yeah, go
Yeah.
on, sure.
So like not all problems are worth spending a lot of time on. So if you are stuck on something very silly, say problem 5 this year, you don't want to spend all of your time on it. Sometimes you just want to, okay, the solution is very silly. You see it and you move on, and you see that okay, I missed this very silly thing. But it's not always that it's beyond you. Sometimes you are just missing something you should have seen. So that's also completely okay, and it would be very frustrating to for something in that case.
Yeah, instead of like frustrating yourself for hours on a problem which is just like some random silly idea, it's better to just like sometimes see the solution and move on. Like you should be open to that as well on the flip side of not seeing solutions.
Yeah, I think one should not have ego in this. Like I must solve this problem, or they should not be like, if I'm not able to solve this problem, then I can't qualify this or something like that.
Yes, I believe it's possible to always keep an open mind. And so moving on to the next question, should I have a set strategy for approaching a contest paper? And what are some of the strategies that you guys would use? So, Rushil,
So this is interesting because I didn't really have much of a strategy until like I qualified for the IMO. And then I was like, okay, now I have like these 6, 8 mocks and I want to try out lots of different strategies, see what works for me. And nothing worked. Like I never got a feeling that like this is perfect for me. The only feelings I did get with some strategies were, okay, this doesn't work for me. So those ones I eliminated at the very least. Some things I did try, for example, is let's say start by reading P3, then read P2, then read P1, then try P1 for a bit, etc. And sometimes just like start with P1, don't think about P2 until you've solved P1, etc. So none of these worked for me because at the end of the day, they were very specific. What is ideal in a contest is that you try and stay flexible, keep yourself balanced. Don't think too much about, I had this strategy and it's not working. So you should be willing to move on to a different sort of thing. And yeah, the IMO, I was not at all thinking about what my strategy is. I was just trying problems. So keep yourself like flexible and don't panic too much about problems. Like just keep yourself calm and things should usually go okay.
Anandu, would you like to add something?
Okay, I had a strategy of not really like you always attempt it when you are doing 3, 2, 1 or something. Like I like to start like the with a problem I think which I might find hard. So usually it's problem 2, and because it's somewhere between 1 and 3, so 3 I just can't attack it from the first moment because I'm still a bit, you know, I need to warm up or something. So what I do is I start with 2, or if I think 2 is maybe approachable, I start with 3, and then if I made some progress, and then I go back to 1, and then I go back to 2 if it's remaining, or work on 3. So I like to keep 1 for the a bit late. I want to start with a bit late compared to 2 and 3. Of course, if I like find 1 hard, then I I would like to try start with 1. And there's also this thing about write-ups that when do you want write-up? Do you want write-up as soon as you solve a problem, or do you want to leave it till the end when you're, say, under pressure so you can finish things quickly? And I've always like, kept it to the last write-up. So keep on solving to the last minute and then do all my write-ups, which could be a bit of a risk because if you end up discovering a fake solve, that's really bad.
Yeah, I think that's happened with me. Like I left my write-ups at the end and I realized they were wrong. So ever since that, I just like I don't do them right by the side, but like I make sure that I'm not leaving anything for the last 40 minutes or something.
One thing I do during contest sometimes like start writing up directly. Most of the main ideas I just write up while I get them, so that I don't have to do it separately.
Yeah, so I guess different people have different strategies, and you just need to find what works for you, or if
Okay,
nothing
I should
works for
just clarify that this is maybe not at all the ideal strategy you need to choose. So This is just what I do. Just a disclaimer.
Yeah, it makes sense that different things work for different people. And um, yes, the next question is, what's the biggest setback you've ever faced in your Olympiad journey, and how did you overcome it? So, Kanav, would you like to go first?
Sure. So, like, even during my Olympiad journey, there are a lot of setbacks that happen frequently. Like, there were days I couldn't solve easy problems. There were days my mocks went bad, and then I'd be like super depressed and sad, and sometimes even question myself that can I even do this? So that can get like very negative, and it's hard to come back from it. And I'd say just don't do this. You are always good enough. Just believe in yourself. My parents helped me a lot to overcome this. And one thing that worked for me was like just stop doing math for some time, take a break, and refresh my mind and start when I felt like. So this is the setbacks that happen generally. But the biggest setback for me was like say I didn't make team last year. I was pretty close, and that was a tough time for me to like accept that I didn't make team. Because at that point I just feel that it was me that made it slip away. I had it, but I just slipped away. And at that time there were a lot of negative thoughts, and I didn't have enough motivation to do math. And these times will happen. I think these times have happened to all of us, and all of us have come back from it. For me, what worked out was my parents motivated me a lot and just keep on moving forward. Forget about the past, forget about all the thoughts and all the regretting stuff. Just keep on moving forward, focus on what you have now, and aim for next year. That worked for me, and I hope that helps more people, because there are going to be times in your life where you, not just math, like in general, you just not make something you wanted to, and you need to learn to overcome that as well. I think even though I was super sad, but that made me learn a lot of things, and now I can come over all of these stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to add, okay, Kanav, last year was, I mean, very close to making team. For me, it was different because like I was not very close, even though I was preparing quite hard as well. So for me, the feeling was really kind of like I'm not good enough. So I went through a lot of that sort of stuff, but I think the sort of changing point for me was when I realized that, I mean, making the IMO team cannot decide whether I'm good enough. So that's why coming into this year, my expectation was not like I need to make IMO team or anything, because I had moved past the stage where I felt like my success is sort of decided by whether I make this team. And for me, a lot of other things stepped in. Like one thing that became really important to me was how I could share my sort of learnings with others. So I started doing a lot of teaching, and I wrote a book, and I think these sorts of things gave me a lot of sense of purpose in some sense. And more than anything, it just I realized that even if I knew I'm never going to make the IMO team, I would not change anything just because I really enjoyed everything I did, and there was no sort of feeling within me that I should have done something else instead.
I would like to add one thing that everyone gets setbacks, but you need to one thing you need to make sure is that the setback does not affect your future tournaments or like your future competitions. So, for example, when I got only 2 marks in RMO 2019, I had a test tournaments 2 weeks later, and I just spoiled it because I was still so sad about that 2 marks in RMO 2019. So you need to make sure that you do not let your bad performance in one paper affect your bad performance in another paper. I think this happened in IMO 2021 when day one was really hard, and some people also did not do very well on day two, which they could have done just because they were disappointed from day one. So I think this is a very important skill to learn in life, because you'll always get setbacks in life. You can never avoid them, but you need to learn to recover fast.
That makes sense. And yes, I think it's always important to have a way to get back from failures or setbacks. And okay, so now we'll move on to some of the questions from the audience. So the first question is, how did you manage school with Olympiad preparation for those of you who went to school? So, Arjun,
So
if
I
you
guess
have an
that's
opinion.
just me.
Yeah, sure, Anand.
Uh, um, okay, so for me, like 11th and 12th grade wasn't a big deal because my school had this arrangement where we got back home around 12 p.m. We just went had half day school, so it was a few hours in the morning wasn't too much of a big deal. And like I things like that. And so that really did not matter. And luckily, the ninth and 10th grade years when you have like homework and assignments and that sort of thing, it was online for me, so I could do whatever I wanted. So I think it's a question of what you want to prioritize. So if some people are really hell bent on getting doing great at school or getting good marks, then it can be a bit of a problem. But like I, I was okay with maybe just scraping through. So that did not interfere too much with uh, my training.
Yeah, for me, it was never really an option to scrape through because of um, everything. But yeah, so I had to spend a lot of time on my school board exams as well in both 10th and 12th. Um, but yeah, I think in general, the more general question is that if there are two things and you need to sort of do both of them, what's the sort of strategy? And that differs for everyone. But what worked for me is that, I mean, just prioritize things temporarily. So in some points of time, I was just ignoring school completely and like I was like attending, but like doing math, etc. And at other times, I just didn't do math for a while because my boards or something were close by, and I sort of ultra focused on them for a while. Um, and yeah, I think that worked for me, but a lot of other people might say that multitasking is a lot better because otherwise you forget about older things and then takes a lot of time to get back. So different things work for different people.
Actually, I did something similar. So when I had to prepare for my 10th board exams, I was like, and they were like around 1.5 months after IMO 2022. So till IMO 2022, I was just doing only math. And after that, I was like, no, I'll just grind the 10th papers.
That's nice. Okay, I think one of the most commonly asked questions from the audience is what are the books you would suggest for Olympiad preparation and which books helped you the most?
I'll just start off because I have a website at rushanmathur.com. There's a page there on curated resources for math Olympiads where there are lots of books, and like I think that covers everything you need. But if anyone wants to add, they can still add.
Have you added your own book to the website?
Yeah, I have.
Um, okay. Okay, if I just like say out the books, I'm not sure what's on Rushil's website, but some good books are like Mathematical Circles, Moscow Math Circles. Then there's Problem Solving Strategies by Arthur Angel. Then there's a very big set of books by Tito Andrescu. And then there's OTIs by Van Chen. Uh, and yeah, I think that goes. And of course, a whole set of problems online. I think that's the biggest book you can say in some sense, the online problems which are there.
Yeah, but actually, if you want one book of each type, I think like for geometry, for example, EGMO is a really, really good book.
So yeah, I
And
forgot that.
NT, for example, has Modern Olympiad Number Theory. Um, Algebra, I don't really know much.
I see. Okay, so the next question is what's the longest time you've ever taken to solve a problem? Aditya, would you like to go first?
Uh, I think like sometimes I just like spread it over few days as well. Like it's not just like you just sit for a long time and stuff and do it. Like you just take a break for some time, try something else or do something different and then come back to the problem. I say in that sense like I've taken a very long time to solve some problems, like, days or something. But it's just like it's breaks taken.
I mean, I'm sure I've seen a problem sometime and then I've solved it only like 2 years later, but that does not mean I spent 2 years on the problem. But yeah, in terms of hours, maybe about 20, probably not more than 20. I don't know. I don't think I've ever spent more than 20 hours.
I think Siddharth should answer this. He spent 9 hours on a geo problem
Yeah, no.
and
So,
eventually solved it.
yeah, the interesting thing about this 9 is that they were like on a continuous sort of thing, almost continuous. So yeah,
Did I take a nap? I think I
you slept for like 2 hours, 3 hours, something.
That's not continuous then though, but
I mean, like you can't like do it through the night.
That's still really impressive. The next question is, what are your thoughts about nature versus nurture? Do you think one needs to have inherent talent to compete at such a level, or can it be achieved by anyone with hard work?
uh, I would say there's some basic IQ level you need to have. I don't know what's that exact number, but I think once you're above that threshold, then other things start mattering. That how much hardworking are you, and etc. If I like to give an analogy, which I read in a book, which was Outliers, it's like if you want to play basketball, then you need to be at least 6 feet. But once you are 6 feet, then after that, other things start mattering, like your agility and stuff. And one of the best players was 6 foot 6 inch. This is a analogy from Outliers. So I think a similar thing goes there. That beyond a point, more things start happening. But I think if there is a person who has an IQ of 130 and there is a person say who has an IQ of 150, then I think the this won't be the deciding factor among them, because both of them are above a threshold, and after it will matter who will work more hard and other stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the IQ is not necessarily the best metric because like I think the only thing an IQ test tests is your ability to take the IQ test. But yeah, in general, I agree that there is some sort of like you need to have some comfort level with math and understand some things and have some basic um feeling for it. But it's a very sort of basic thing. It's not like people who make it to the IMO team are born with like some magical talent to solve very hard problems or something.
Makes
I
sense.
feel like it's just more of like liking math in general. And then you just start off and then you just keep liking it and do more of it.
And I
Ne-
forgot there are other factors as well, like you're in which environment, and at what grade did you get introduced to Olympiad math? Were your parents supportive in you pursuing your Olympiad math and so on and stuff? Not just your inherent talent.
Yeah, I think there are like one other factor is luck because like some people see the right sort of things early and others are maybe lost in the SOF world or something like that. But the point is that um, if you do get the right resources, then I think anyone should be capable enough of making it as long as they're above that threshold.
By luck, you mean the luck in the contest that you solve a problem, or the luck you know about IMO?
But I meant like luck, more I meant luck in terms of the, when do you get access to which resources sort of thing. Like,
Okay.
So the next question is, how many hours a day do you spend on Olympiad math? Everyone can answer this one, I guess. So, Siddharth, would you like to go first?
That is tricky. Like it ranges a lot. Maybe some days I won't do math. Some days just like 2 3 hours, or sometimes it's like 10 hours. It's pretty random.
I think
Interesting.
the sort of answer is um, like I've heard this sort of Hindi, this thing, don't count the number of rotis you're eating. Don't count the number of hours you're solving math problems.
I would say when I was like at the peak of my preparation, like when I was like really very serious and really working very hard, then I would spend like around 8 hours at an average. But as Rushil said, not the quantity, quality also matters a lot in those 8 hours. If you are like, for example, just sleeping, nothing matters. But but you need to be very serious in those in the time you spent on the problem.
Yeah, and that also means that, for example, if you try to spend 16 hours a day doing math, like that may not be very good just because you're not giving yourself enough rest, and therefore your capacity to work in those 16 hours is much lower than what it could be in if you half that time. So it's yeah important that you keep yourself fresh when you're doing math because that's an important thing for math. That
Yeah, and this is something similar that I said in start. Like you can do if you so for example, if you do physical activity for 2 hours, like instead of doing math for 10 hours, you do math for 8 hours and physical activity for 2 hours. I think that would be a better strategy in terms of course, in terms of fun and living your life, of course, yes, but in terms of maths as well, because they are proven things that physical activity, you can then use your mind better and as Vishal said, you do not have to get burned out by doing it for a lot of time.
That makes a lot of sense. Aditya, what about you?
Yeah, I think I agree that like this. Not to count the hours and like do how much you want to do and then not based on like counting the hours.
Makes sense. And Kana?
Yeah, like I never counted the amount of hours I do math. I just do math when I feel like. Some days I just do 2 hours, but I do like 10 problems. Some days I do 8 hours and like not even a single problem.
It's also
It
funny
varies.
because, like, what all do you count in this? Like sometimes when I'm eating food, I'm solving a problem. Sometimes like when I'm like half asleep at like 1 a.m., I'm still thinking about a problem. Like, do you start counting these things as well, or like only
You
when
can
you're
divide that by two and then add it.
sure? But like the point is that I like the time I'm sitting on a table and doing math is probably not representative of how much Olympiad math is done.
Yeah, so I think a common theme is not to worry too much about the number of hours you get to spend and just make sure you enjoy what you're doing. And okay, I think the next question might be a bit controversial. Is it worth learning how to bash geometry problems? So, Aditya, would you like to go first about your opinion?
So like I have like learned how to batch problems and like I've used it in a few conferences as well. So like, I would say it's not like a bad thing to learn, but like when practicing, you should always like look for a synthetic solution as well. You should not just do a bash bang test. But like in contest, like you can just do a bash if that's the first thing you see or something like that.
Yeah, Aditya, the 36 terms quality. That was one of the IMO marks. So for me, I never learned Bash until right before IMO when I was like, okay, I should not mess up a geometry problem just because like I didn't know Bash or something. So that was kind of like desperation. In general, I'm very much against bashing, but I think in terms of purely contest this thing, it's a fair strategy that it's something you should have on your toolkit. But sometimes you can get a bit too carried away with it. Like every problem you start thinking, okay, I should bash this. Why am I thinking about a synthetic solution? The point is that if you want to improve your synthetic skill, you have to stay away from bashing at least while you're thinking about those things. And you can come back and think about bashing when you actually want to practice your bash, for example.
I never learnt Bash, but I'd say Bash is not bad. Like use it as a tool rather than a technique. Like if you it's like they look at it as angle chasing. You don't just go at angle chase every problem. Use angle chasing in some part of a problem. If you want to do some part, you can use Bash at some part. So basically complement Bash with synthetic and use it as something like that. Don't mindlessly Bash. I never learned Bash. I don't know how half of the Bash works. So I hate Bash. But there are people who are pretty good at bashing and can that solve hard problems in contest. So it's not a bad thing. Prefer not doing it.
Yeah, I also agree with Kana. At some point, I just left bashing and I just never cared about bashing. Like when I started out, I learned a little bit about them, but at some point, I was like, nah, this is not for me. And like, I just It's also for me like very unaesthetic bashing. So I just like don't like bashing in general.
Yeah, and for reference, when you're as good at as Siddharth at synthetic geo, then like Bash is not something you need to think about.
Okay, the next question is, what do you think it is that you did differently than others that helped you? Is there anything in particular that you did differently?
In my opinion, there is not a very particular different thing that we do than others, and it's a common advice to give that do not overthink about the strategy, how to do things. Just have to do things, and you can slowly improve. Because in Olympiad math, there are a lot of people who spend so much time thinking, what's the best strategy, what's the best set of problems I can try. Uh, so one should not be doing like that. And I said there are a lot of factors which lead to our success, our talent, uh, uh, like the situation we are in, our parents support us or not. So I think one should not have uh, vanity that I got into the team. Like, of course, there's a lot of hard work, but there were also other circumstances which led you to be in a team.
Okay, actually, I have an interesting insight. Something that helped me a lot, which I guess not a lot of people would speak about, is that I taught a lot. And this included a lot of one-on-one classes as well. And I think after some point, I just started taking classes on topics I specifically felt uncomfortable with, which is the opposite of what you would expect. And that helped me a lot just because when you have to teach something, you have to be very comfortable with it. And when you're not, you're going to get everything tested because people will ask you questions and you need to discover the answers if you don't already know them. And that helped me a lot. And even though it didn't seem like anything, it made a big deal in terms of my confidence, in terms of my belief, and a lot of other things.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Like a major part of like what I was doing before, say IMO or IMO TC or something, was like teaching other students so that like it could, and that helped me a lot as well.
I would like to add one thing. I think I did meditation, and that helped a lot in Olympiad. In general, they advise you to do the meditation for your mind, but I think in Olympiad for particular, it's really helpful. Like after half an hour, I would take a break and do meditation for minutes, and it really helps. Like if anyone will do it, I will not have to explain them why you should do it. They'll just see the results. I mean, a lot of ideas I get in that time because you just relax your mind. And that's very important in Olympiad math because you're just using so much of a brain, and that the brain needs a rest.
Do you mean meditation in the contest or before the contest? Like you
In
said, you get a lot of ideas in.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
in the contest after every 30 minutes. Okay, you can't do it perfectly by sitting in that pose and stuff, but you can still do it 80% or something.
Yeah, I think instead of thinking of it as like meditation, like what I would do is just like relax myself, maybe go to the washroom, wash my hands, wash my face, just like zone out for a while and then come back in, like so that you feel fresh. And like meditation is one way of achieving that, but this is what I did, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that
Also,
might be
maybe
important.
someone can brush during the contest.
Sure. Okay. The next question is something I'm sure a lot of people would have. So, do I need to join a coaching institute to do well in Olympiads? And what's the importance of a community and mentors versus self-study?
Yes, join the Sophie Fellowship program. The top 10 people from the team selection tests were all a part of this program. So this is now we can prove that there is like a correlation or something. But jokes apart, it's nothing's necessary. You should do whatever you think is right. But in general, I think Sophie specifically is a very good community just because you get to interact with a lot of like-minded people and you get to solve problems with them. But if you were expecting something like a coaching institute, the answer is like, no, it's not necessary.
Also
Okay.
for coaching
If I can add
institute,
on to that,
yeah, you can.
would you like? Okay. So yeah, coaching, mentor, not necessary, but I would say yeah, the community helps a lot because you learn a lot more just by interacting with your peers or people are at a similar level to you, rather than like coaches. Um, because that's also motivation, because I mean, you can learn things yourself, but you won't find the motivation unless you have a community. So I think that's a big part of Sophie, like not what we do with coaching or maybe the problem sets. So maybe people would disagree with this opinion, but I think a community is a very big part.
To add on what Ananda said, he was talking about peers, like you get a lot of motivation from peers. I also had it, but I also had a lot of motivation from seniors. Like when I met Pranjal for the first time, he was like sort of a role model because he had won gold, and just meeting him and talking to him gave a lot of motivation. And regarding coaching institutions, unfortunately, we do not really have coaching institutions in India who are dedicated to Olympiad math, and I think Sophie Fellowship is, I guess, the only one I know. And of course, there's M Prakash sir, so they are very limited.
Yeah, I think Aditya will have some different sort of opinion.
For me, like teacher Amrita sir helped me a lot. But like he introduced me that this exists as well. But
Yeah, like me and him were together. So
Okay, the next question is, do you have a favorite problem or a set of problems? Kanu, would you like to go
Well,
first? Yeah, sure.
not a fair. The problem I hate the most, I have a problem I hate the most, not hate the most, but I dislike the most is like problem 5 this year. And one reason for doing that is because I did not solve it. Yeah, and I do not have any like list of the problems I like. Just remove the problems like problem 5 from the like list.
I see.
Yeah, I would second him on problem 5. I do not think it deserves to be on the IMO.
I hate problem 5 as well. But there is no like favorite problem list or something like that. It just changes every day. I find a new problem. Okay, that's my new favorite. 2 weeks later, okay, I found a new favorite. Just changes. And my subject preference also changes randomly. I like combo. Other next day I like geos. It's very variable
Records
and
are made
flexible
to be
for me.
broken.
Sure, yes, you can put it that way.
Yeah, it just happens that the next question is, what is your favorite topic and why is it your favorite? So for others.
Okay, my favorite topic is geometry, and the simplest reason I like it is because I think I'm best at it compared to other subjects.
Okay, what about Ananda?
Okay, so it's either combinatorics or geometry, just because I don't like number theory and algebra too much. I feel like there isn't too much depth to these subjects, like just like finding the right trick instead of like deep thinking or intuition or something, which I mean, geometry, of course, there's a lot of structure, there's a lot of like rich configurations and so on, lots of different ways you can think about a problem. But number theory and algebra, it's more forced. Like, okay, something like functional equations, which is not forced, is absolutely horrible. But something like number theory, you are essentially forced on one track. And okay, algebra, something I hate functional equations because like it's just there's no like how do I say, there's no like all of these problems are a bit disjoint. Like there are no connections or something like that, and you just apply a bunch of tricks one after the other until you get what you want. It's just, um, you could say the same thing of geometry, but I think there's more structure to it. And combinatorics is, of course, like, very intuitive, beautiful.
Yeah, I think everyone has obviously quite different opinions. Like I really like function equations, for example. Um, and I guess there's no real reasoning I have. And if Anando comes up with this reasoning that it's very valid, but it just doesn't decide anything for me. I just still like function equations. But anyway, combinatorics anyway stands out to me because, yeah, of course, there's the whole aspect that every problem brings something sort of new, and like you can have problem statements which like nothing like this has ever appeared before, and yet it could be like amazing, which is somewhat missing in the other three. um And yeah, I enjoy all of them. I don't have anything I particularly hate except maybe inequalities. But yeah.
And Siddharth, what about you?
For me, it's both geometry and combinatorics. Similar to Ananda, like for combinatorics and geometry, like for me, there's an intuition. Whereas algebra number three, I can't really think of much of an intuition unless there is some sort of combinatorial structure to it. And yeah, combinatorics and geometry are very beautiful. It's a, yeah.
And Aditya?
For me also geometry and combinatorics. So like there's a lot of like things you can do in this program. Like in combinatorics you can like get a lot of ideas and like you can try a lot of approaches. You guys are like
Yeah,
Okay, so
one thing I just like want to come back to is that even though you might have a favorite genre or something, it really comes down to the problem. Like there can be amazing problems within functional equations which Anando hates, and he might still like them. And there can be really bad combinatorics problems which again Anando hates even though he likes combinatorics.
Yeah, okay, I would agree with that. Yeah.
One thing you need to keep in mind is that even if you hate geometry, for example, then you still have to do it if you want to do reasonable at Olympiads. I think if you're forced to do some things.
No, I think you can get by without doing geometry at all. Like, but like the other like combinatorics, you definitely need to do.
I mean, like, suppose you have to improve from solving P2 to P3 in combinatorics, it's much easier to solve P1 in geometry, like the time it takes to improve
Yeah,
from.
that is a fair point. Yeah, but like you can suppose you don't know any geometry, you can just get by with. Like there's a more combinatorial ideas and
Yeah, definitely. Combinatorics is the main topic.
many algebra number theory problems are disguised like just disguised combinatorics. So
It's also like there's one thing about being good at something and one thing about liking it. So you like for example, a lot of people who let's say aren't very good at combinatorics or aren't very good at geometry, they still like it. So they are not against the idea of learning more. But like uh yeah, in general, I don't see a reason why most people would have much against combi and geo, even if they do have something against, let's say, algebra.
Also, if you do have something like combi, you must do it because it's the most emerging topic in Olympiads.
yeah, also like I think geo skill is very much correlated to how much you like geo, but I can't say that about combinatorics because it's hard for everyone. Like, so, but geo skill is definitely correlated. Yeah.
That's weird, but it's correlated to how much you like it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah, that's a very weird statement in my opinion.
But in general, I suppose I agree. There are a lot of people who like it's also a sort of cycle, right? You don't like something, so you don't do it, so you don't like it. If you are willing to put in a little bit of hard work of trying it out, then you might end up liking it actually.
Or I think sometimes it also works like you only like the things you're able to solve, you don't like the things you're not able to do.
For me, I
yes.
like combinatorics a bit more than geometry, but I am weaker at combinatorics than geometry comparatively in practice.
Okay, so a lot of preference for combo and geometry and a lot of opinions.
No,
So
not for
coming,
geometry. I think only for okay in terms of liking, okay, but not in terms of what will emerge more.
I also think like NT is not too bad either. It's just like I don't think anyone would say
Yeah,
they
I think I am basing my opinion on like problem 2 this year, which is it's recency bias here.
yeah, so NT is dying.
Sometimes I agree it should be intuitive and yeah, when it's not like random algebraic shenanigans or like some like this AB plus one thing, whatever. Yeah.
Don't have to spoil IMO problems for everyone.
Okay.
I only find number theory intuitive when there is some combinatorial structure.
Makes sense. Okay, the next question is,
Also, okay, the N shortlist. Yeah, the N short. I was basing it on N. Okay, I was basing my opinion on number on the N shortlist and P2. Okay, so not just one problem.
I think
10
the general statement that's
problems.
correct is that NT is dying. Whether NT is good or not is like true NT is like really not appearing anymore.
What do you mean by true NT?
Anything but these ISLs and
You want
interesting.
prime number
So,
theorem to be on IMO the next year?
sure. I'll write down the proof. It's okay.
You know the proof.
I know that it depends on Riemann zeta function not having roots at real
Because you attended the talk this year. Okay.
okay, next question. Did you solve a lot of the IMO short test?
We were forced to, but I did not.
Yeah, actually same. So like there was a lot of this thing that we should solve a lot of them, but as it came closer to contest, I was more like, okay, doesn't matter what anyone's saying.
I think the question is like, did you solve IMO shortlists in general, not for PDC?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
I saw lots of them. I think IMO Shortlist is the best resource, like by far.
Yeah, same here. I would like to clarify. I thought it was for PDC because we had a lot of fun at PDC.
What about Ananda?
No, I don't think I did too much of the shortlist. I might have just taken some random sources. Like, yeah, shortlist was one of those sources, but I did not give too much preference. Like, I did not have this bucket list of completing the shortlist or anything. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, next. How can someone with no background in Math Olympiad start? Is there a particular topic I should focus on? I'm sure a lot of people want to know the answer to this.
I think if they have no background in math, they should like first learn the basic math till class 10. Like if they don't know that, how can they even start doing something? And after that, maybe they can start with combinatorics because it's an interesting topic and it's something that a layman can even understand. For example, if you ask something, if there are four people and they shake hands, how many shake hands should be there? And then you can easily explain them that the answer is 4C2. So I think for a layman who is not into the mathematics field, I think combinatorics is undoubtedly the most interesting. They can teach that to them.
Yeah, I think one thing is that if you find yourself like quite strong at math, it might be useful to do up to 10th math. But if you also want a little bit of motivation along the way, just because I think school math is not always the most exciting thing to do. Some of those like Moscow math circles and mathematical circles, those sorts of books are very nice.
Okay, so coming on to one of the last questions. What are your plans for the future? And after graduating school, will you continue to be involved in Olympiad math? So for the ones who've graduated from school. So Roshil, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think like that sort of two things you can do. One is like start proposing a lot of problems and decide what problems come on contest and teach in like actual camps. The other thing is be a little more um like do things on a more private basis, like through Sophie, OMC, Otis, etc. I'm mostly in the second category just because I want to teach a lot more and I'm not a very good problem proposer, at least for now. But yeah, I'm definitely very much involved in terms of like wanting to contribute. And it's not even like a question for me.
Arjun, what
For
about
me,
you?
I haven't decided yet, but I would definitely like to contribute to the Olympiad math in India. Like I would like to help the younger people who are preparing for Olympiads.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure to what extent I'll be involved too. But yeah, I would like to stay in touch at the very least.
And Kanav and Aditya, do you have plans for the future yet? If so, would you like to contribute to math after school?
Yeah, I guess I'll continue on to contribute after graduating as well.
Yeah, same. I would, what Rishil said, I'd mostly want to go on the first side to propose more problems. Not problems, not like P5, better problems. And hopefully some good NT. NT, true.
Actual NT.
True
Actual
NT.
NT.
Yes. And next, the question is, what are some of your favorite math YouTubers, if any?
3 blue, 1 brown. Oh wait, online math club. Yes.
Thank you.
But also 3 blue, 1 brown.
And any others?
Okay, not exactly a math YouTuber, but I would like to shout out Cracking the Cryptic. And they do Sudokus, but normal Sudoku, some variants. And I found some of the Sudokus as interesting as like Olympiad combinatorics problems, and certainly as difficult. And they have like very like it's not just like usual Sudoku tricks. Like they have some very sophisticated ideas. So I think for someone who's interested in puzzles, I think that's a good channel to check out.
Okay, I'll check it out. The Sudoku part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really interesting.
There's also a nice channel on more sciencey things and like Veritasium, which I really like. But yeah, that's not really related to Olympiad math in any way, just something I find really nice.
Nice. So now we are coming to the end of the interview, so we'll move on to the last part. This is a fun segment called Who's the Most Likely to? So I'll be saying some item, and then each of you can say the person whom you think is most likely to do this particular thing. So the first one is, who's the most likely to get distracted by a cat?
Kanav.
Like it's Siddharth, right?
No.
That's Siddharth.
Okay, so that's not here to accept.
Siddharth. Definitely Siddharth.
Okay,
Yeah,
Siddharth and Kanav, but for completely different reasons. Siddharth, Kanav is for a completely different reason than Siddharth. So I would like Kanav would be more distracted. Yeah.
Yeah, Kanav would be like, why is this cat here? What is it doing?
No, I don't. I think it's more like he's scared of the cat. Like, and if he's scared of moths, he's scared of cats.
I'm scared of cats, but yeah, I might get more distracted.
Oh, we have a surprise. The deputy leader who went with the team, Rizal Saini, who's also a past timer medalist. Thank you so much for joining. And in general, if you could just answer some, I think some of the most asked questions, maybe
Let me
what
just
was your
introduce myself
experience?
real quick since people might not know me. So I was the deputy leader this year. Okay. Just real quick, I went to the IMO back in 2012. Okay. And yeah, so I had a great experience with the team this year. And yeah, that's all I want to say.
Okay, so
Could
just
you
some questions.
highlight some, sorry, could you
Yeah, sure.
highlight some differences about going as a participant and going as a deputy leader?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of changes. For example, as a student, you don't have too many things to worry about except for the exam itself. As a deputy leader, you have everything to worry about except the actual exam. So yeah, so all the worrying about the students, where are they, and what are they doing, and yeah.
Which student were you most worried about?
I mean, you guys were all fine, honestly. Like, yeah, so I don't think I had a tough time, but yeah, I mean, at the airport, definitely you. But let's not talk about that.
Krishnan sir said he was afraid that I would not catch the bus, the 6 a.m. bus. So,
Yeah, for multiple reasons. Let's not go over.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think you guys were all nice. Like, I don't think I had too much trouble with you. But yeah, I mean, as a student, I think I had. I mean, okay, so definitely as a student, I went out less. Like, I was mostly in the hotel and just paid attention to the things happening there. As a deputy leader, I got to like I went out more, like I explored the place, and yeah, I had so I mean that can just be a sign of maturity. Like I was more comfortable with doing that. But yeah, I mean that's what happened. And
What
yeah, I
was the
mean,
most
yeah, as a student also you don't get to take part in the arbitration. So yeah, so that is a big big change when you see this other side of being a deputy leader or a leader, and yeah, you actually get to participate in the arbitration.
Doing gym helped Rachel Bhaiya in the arbitration.
Yeah.
what was the most stressful time for you as a deputy leader during the IMO?
Uh, Most stressful time. Like there wasn't much stress, to be honest. Like the most hectic time you would say is like when the 1 or 2 days before the arbitration. So you had to go through all the scripts and like for example on the first day of the IMO, like you had to like both comfort the students that you did fine and like nothing is going to happen, okay, and at the same time you also have to be strict with them that just tell me honestly what you did and what uh, what were your thoughts about the problems and all, because like um, we need to worry about what the actual ideas were, right? Like if you want to get some points for things that you have randomly written, then you do need to know what they were written for, okay, and the student might forget later. So it's important that you get to know what they were thinking about right after the contest has ended.
Thank you for your
Yeah.
insights and also joining on such short notice.
Yeah, no problem.
Also, maybe I think most people might not, one last thing, most people might not know about the process of arbitration and the role of a deputy leader. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
uh yeah, so basically I'm there to help get the marks that students really deserve, okay. So the point is that the coordinators, even though they are like really great people, they might overlook 1 or 2 things that the student has written, and they might not grade them properly, right? So, and because I mean, it's like it's no fault of theirs really. Like, they have to go through a lot of scripts. Okay, so it's not like it's their fault that they are bad at their job or something. But yeah, I mean, so the point is that we are there to like make sure that they give us the marks that we really deserve. And yeah, so like it came up in 1 or 2 places that we had to explain to them that this solution is doing this, and like you might be thinking that something else. And so for example, for the geometry problems, like if you've done an inversion somewhere and you've rephrased the whole problem to some other problem, then you can get confused in that what is really going on. So it's like good to just explain to them that see, this is the inversion and this is how the things get rephrased. And yeah, so that's, I mean, I'm mostly we are there to like make sure that they understand the solution properly. And also, I mean, obviously there are a few situations in which we think that it might deserve an extra mark or two. And so yeah, so you come to a reasonable sort of agreement that um, do you think this actually deserves marks or it doesn't deserve marks. And yeah, so that happens, like there's an increase of 1 or 2 marks here and there. Yeah, and that's what we are there for, like to ensure that people get the marks that they deserve, and no one is. Yeah, so, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about getting like the proper amount of marks, like that you like the thing that all that you've written on the paper should reflect the marks that you've got. That's basically it. Like if you have solved it properly, you should get 7. If you have some ideas, you should get a couple of partials. And if you're almost there and just missed out on the problem, then like you should get the majority of the marks at least. So that's the like the broad kind of scheme.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah, no problem.
over to Sanjana to continue with the concluding.
Thank you for joining on such short notice. And yes, moving on. So the next one is, who's the most likely to forget about breakfast?
Definitely Arjun, because he'll not forget, but he'll wake up late.
Wait, I think this could be me also because like even
No,
though I
yeah.
wake up on time, like I just skip
You,
breakfast.
yeah, you skip breakfast. You don't forget about it. Arjun forgets about it.
That's true. That's true.
Who's the most likely to bash in a contest?
Aditya.
The only person who's
Everyone-
positively bashed is
Aditya.
Aditya.
I don't think anyone else has ever bashed on a contest on me.
Hey, Arjun has bashed her. So,
Have you? Yeah.
Oh, when did I bash?
hey, TST day 2 P2. Yeah, that was a bash. No?
No, I mean, that is a very positive bash. I mean, in the sense,
Don't make
okay, you
excuses.
can ask.
It was a bash.
Okay, the main part of the problem was not the bash. The main part of the problem was the construction and the idea. After that, the bash, everything just cancels out on both sides, and you're done.
Okay. Okay.
Island bash
Okay,
at times. Like,
okay, it's not as good as a perfect synthetic solution, or not as nice, but it's not as bad as a bash.
Makes sense. Okay, so next is, who's most likely to win a roast battle?
Ananda. Yeah.
I think this one has a clear answer. Who's the most likely to write a book?
Wow.
wow.
Vishal.
Thank you.
Obviously. Okay,
Oh,
who's the most
actually, it's a wrong answer because he has already written a book. So who's the
Yeah, I
most
feel like I'm
likely
just
to
so
write?
excited to write another book.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
So,
But I might republish this book or something. Like
oh yeah.
sure. Who's the most likely to be hyper before a contest?
kind of. I have video
Arjun.
proof.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
Who's the most likely to be hyper in general? Kanaf.
Yes,
Yes, sure. I'd say myself as well.
Who's the most likely to win the Hunger Games?
Oh, we said one thing
Prerequisite
that
is that no
your
one-
mathematic abilities are inversely related to your weight. So you can decide either you're good at math or you're fat. It was something like that.
This was a very false conjecture, which
Yeah.
is
Why?
supposed.
So,
I guess it's a prerequisite to know what the Hunger Games is about. So I think that's where
right.
I'm at.
So the Hunger Games is a series of books in which basically people need to survive in a certain arena, and whoever survives the longest wins.
I guess Aditya.
What?
Yeah. But no, you just feel that it's.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like Arjun, like he's the guy who'd be like actually can do it. None of us, I don't think it's even possible to last a day.
I don't think we would enter the Hunger Games, most of us, except Arjun might.
Yeah, Arjun is
Exactly.
the.
The only guy who would want to enter the Hunger Games is Arjun. After that, I
अरे
don't
हंगर
know.
गेम्स होती क्या है मुझे तो पता ही नहीं.
It's fun. You will.
Like some
Okay.
outdoor activity, it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Rock
Sports,
climbing.
yes.
No,
Yeah,
surfing,
exactly,
surfing.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
Siddharth, are you doing surfing there?
no. I went to the beach, but I didn't swim.
Okay, and the last one is, who's the most likely to get stranded on a desert island?
I think me maybe because like I have been quite clumsy at times. I might take the wrong flight and go to some random island. But I think Arjun would voluntarily maybe go to the stranded island just to enjoy the.
Yeah, and I would also go outside and sometimes get lost. Like we got lost, me,
Yeah,
Rushil, and Anando
Yeah,
during the
that's
IMO.
nice then. Yeah.
and me and Arjun also got lost in Japan.
Yeah, okay, so I'm the odd one out because I'm the intersection of the two sets. So if you are
Yeah,
with me, you have a higher chance of getting lost because I'll motivate you to do like risky
Also,
stuff
like you're
and
not really lost when you have Google Maps with you, but like we like to
yeah,
believe
but
that.
we still like were going the wrong directions with Google
oh no
Maps.
no no. In Japan, I think it was a bigger problem. I think there was some internet. So in Japan, it was actually hard. Okay, in UK, we were lost intentionally. We were not using our brain, but in Japan, it was actual lost. Not at a big level, but still, it was lost.
Interesting. So, with this, we have come to the conclusion of this interview. It was really fun for all of us, I'm sure. And thank you so much to the audience for tuning in, and to the team and for Rijal Baya for taking our time for answering our questions. I hope you all enjoyed. And yeah,
Thanks to MC as well for organizing the interview and being such a nice host.
Yeah, I think special thanks to Sanjana, Saeed, Pranav,
thank you.
like doing all of this. It's really a big thing.
Okay, the stream is ended.